Hey, folks, how we all doing? Pardon me. As soon as I go live, I cough. I'm here with my haven't had him on in a while, but most hated man on the internet, Matt Forney's with me.
Yeah, I was right, Bechtloff. You weren't sending me flowers anymore.
Yeah, I got a text from him today. I will not be ignored, Chris. But yeah, I just felt like streaming a little bit tonight. We will be doing a gaming stream. I'm thinking maybe like Friday night. I'll do the first gaming stream, first solid one. We'll be playing some Atari 2600 games. But yeah, tonight it just felt like bullshitting. You know, a few things of interest in the news. Obviously, there's the Groiper uprising. That's pretty interesting. The Sonic trailer is oddly enough pretty interesting. And probably talk about the James McDonald story a little bit more now that I'm a little calmed down. I was a little upset the other night about it, a little unhappy. I was legitimately losing my shit trying to read through that apology, not apology of his. Just red hot fucking rage in me. But yeah, the Sonic trailer is the first thing I want to talk about, and I'm not going to try and play any of it because I'll get nailed. But you know, a few months ago they put out the trailer for the live action Sonic, and it looked like a raging dumpster fire. It looked just atrocious, and the internet collectively agreed, "What the fuck is that?" And then they redid it. I guess it wasn't even a few months ago. It was like a year ago now, I guess. But they redid it. They redesigned Sonic, and what's more, in that trailer, they really it sounds like they reshot a whole lot of stuff, redid a lot of dialogue. The trailer has a very, very different tone. The new trailer of I don't know, actually kind of lighthearted and fun, like you'd expect a Sonic movie to be. You know, it's not. We're, there's not. They're not playing Gangster's Paradise in it. You know, so a big step up. I still don't think it looks particularly good, if I'm being honest with you. You know, the biggest thing I have no interest in. Oh, look, Sonic came to our world. I have no interest in seeing that movie again. Hollywood makes that movie for adaptations all the fucking time, and it's annoying. They did it with the
That
Smurfs. They did it with He-Man back in the '80s. There's countless examples of it. It's like,
they did it with Howard the Duck.
yeah, well, that kind of is the story of Howard the Duck. But it's this basic story where it's like, what if we take this thing that exists in this fantastical world and brought it to our world? Wouldn't it be confused? It wouldn't understand our ways. Yeah, okay, that's great. That's like something you save for the third or fourth sequel. How about that? Like, you're too lazy to do a little world building? Like, you know, the He-Man. I remember seeing I didn't even know the He-Man movie existed when I was a little kid. And I loved He-Man when I was a little kid. Right before Ninja Turtles, all about He-Man. But I remember years later, like 91, 92, I saw it at the video store and I thought, they made a live action He-Man movie? That sounds awesome. So I rented it. And I got home, I'm like, what is this shit? It's just He-Man goes to New York. That's gay. I want to see a movie where we see Eternia. But no, that's hard to do. That's expensive. So we're not going to do that. Like, this isn't a Sonic movie. It's that same generic fucking story that they just shoehorned Sonic in. That said, though, part of me almost wants to go see it in a theater for the simple fact that I want to support the fact that a movie studio actually heard us complain and tried to fix it. You know, we there's been so many years where it's like if you don't like it, you're an incel or you're a man baby or get the fuck over it or whatever. You know, they put the trailer out for Captain Marvel. Everyone thought it looked like shit. Oh, you're an incel. They put the trailer out for the 2016 Ghostbusters. Everyone thought it looked like shit. Oh, you're an incel. All this other dumb shit. Where like, oh, if you don't like it, the problem is you. Well, no, maybe the problem is the movie's bad. So, you know, I don't know Disney. I don't know Sony. It's kind of interesting that a movie studio was like, oh, nobody likes this. We should change it. I, I kind of think that's worth supporting. So part of me almost wants to see it for that. Part of me almost wants to buy a ticket and not even see it because I'm not interested in it that much. But I almost just want to give them money as a thank you for not being cunts because that's where we're at right now. Like, I appreciate them. I appreciate a waitress not spitting in my food is where I'm at with Hollywood.
Yeah, I have no real strong opinion on this because I'm not like a Sonic fan or stuff like that. But who thought this movie was a good idea? Who thinks this kind of movie is a good idea? Like the whole idea of putting like a CGI character into like a live action movie. That's never really worked, ever. I mean,
I don't know why don't you just do an animated movie? I don't understand. I don't understand the desire to turn things into live action that have no fucking business being in live action. Things that are obviously stylized cartoons do not need to be fucking live action.
yeah. Anyway, people in the chat are saying my volume's low. Is this a bit better?
Yeah, that's a lot louder.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know, like everything you gotta tell, like Garfield and fucking, every cartoon has to be live action, and it very rarely produces anything even all that interesting, let alone worthwhile. You know,
And like the CGI is always creepy. I mean, the Sonic redesign is obviously an upgrade from the monstrosity that they put out beforehand. But it still looks weird and fake. I mean, I remember like years ago, like Yahtzee Zero Punctuation did a review of like a Sonic game. I forget which one, and like he said it like this. He was talking about games, but it just as easily applies to the movie. You know, Sonic in like 3 dimensions just doesn't work. It's like releasing freshwater fish into the Dead Sea. But that applies to like all these movies. Like when you there's a certain like magic, a certain artistry in like 2D art, and not just video games, animation, that you just does not translate to 3D. It never does. There's something lost there due to the uncanny valley, or just due to like the nature of computer animation. You know, what is more beloved? Something like Aladdin, Snow White, classic Disney movies with actual hand-drawn animation, or like stuff like Ralph Bakshi did, Fritz the Cat, the animated Lord of the Rings movie, stuff, what's his face, Don Bluth did, Secret of Nim, movies that had real artistry and like heart put into them with the animation. Nobody's gonna fucking like fondly remember Sonic the Hedgehog or the Garfield live action movie with CGI. I mean, Pixar has like some of that going on with like Toy Story and whatnot. But that's largely because like when Pixar started doing CGI movies, that was still novel. We weren't getting those every other week. So the idea of an animated movie being produced on a computer was original. It was cool. It was novel.
well, Pixar, they're also great writers. I mean, I think ironically enough, the best example of how good the writing is at Pixar is Cars, for the simple fact that that is a movie that should not be able to work as more than like a 2 minute short, and it's okay. Like they managed to stretch that paper thin concept into okay. And I mean, they're fantastic writers at Pixar. I mean, you look at so many of the other animated movies that have come out recently, and they're all CG now. Most of them are incredibly forgettable, and I lament the loss of 2D animation. Part of the problem with CG, to me at least, CG looks really, really bad when you're cutting corners or trying to do it cheap. Pixar pours shit tons of time and money into their things, into their movies. But when, one of the lesser studios just farts something out real quickly, it can often look really, really bad. Whereas 2D animation can be done a little bit better on the cheap and the quick.
Yeah. By the way, Bechtloff, people are still saying in the chat my volume's too low. I think you need to throw up the desktop audio on OBS.
That should be better. I don't know. Quit your bitching, people.
Yeah.
You'll get what I give you. I'm taking the Hollywood approach. If you don't like it, the problem is you.
Now you gotta channel some of that irony, bro, energy, bro. Fuck the fans.
Yeah, it's like, that's what I'm gonna do. It's a Hollywood. Like, no, my volume's not too low. You're just going deaf. All right, fuck all of you. Fuck you not hearing motherfuckers. Maybe you just need to try and hear harder. All right? Just shut up and buy a ticket, pay piggy. No, I miss 2D animation. I miss it greatly. I don't. I'm tired of all this 3D animation. It doesn't have the same soul, and I don't know why it's just what everything is now. I really don't get it. Like maybe maybe it's easier. Like maybe they just need to. I don't know how it works, but I wonder if maybe they just gotta, create the models and then the computer program fucking animates it. I mean, maybe it's
Yeah,
just easier than drawing every split second by hand. I don't know.
I believe that's the case, because with like the hand drawn animation in like old Disney movies, like every frame, everything, whatnot has to be animated. There's corners you can cut around it, but people can tell the difference. Like there's the famous example of The Thief and the Cobbler, the movie that took 30 years to make. But that movie is visually very beautiful because again everything is hand animated. Compared to uh, and that stuff requires like real artistry, whereas the bar for CGI I think is a lot lower. You just need to know how to use computers. Now I'm thinking back to you know like the 90s, which is when the animation kind of died. We got a lot of great movies like out of that. I. I'm not an aficionado of animated movies. The last time I saw something like that was well, I saw what was it, Rango, the one with Johnny Depp playing the lizard.
Hmm.
Uh, that was pretty good. Uh, that was a rare example of a modern 3D movie that was really damn good. In large part because of the writing and because Johnny Depp is pretty awesome. But before that, I'm stretching my memory to think of like really good. Yeah, the last ones I saw that really left an impression on me were there was The Incredibles. That was pretty good. And then I have to go back to 2D animation. That would be like the Iron Giant and Titan AE. I know people shit on Titan AE. It's not that great, but I'll defend it
I
because
liked it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's a rare example of like 3D technology being used right because they combined the 2D animation for the scenes with the characters, and they used the 3D sparingly for like the space fight scenes and whatnot. That's pretty good. And the Iron Giant's fucking beautiful. I mean, it's a little maudlin, but I swear to God, the ending of that movie just like, almost brings a tear to my eye.
Most Pixar movies, and I haven't even seen all of them, but most of them, I part of me likes The Incredibles more just because I'm such a superhero dork. But I think objectively, Wally is probably their best movie. Just because the sheer amount of characterization and expression you're able to get out of a couple of robots that don't even have speaking lines, basically, is just amazing. Other than Pixar, I mean, there's a few DreamWorks things. There's a few like as much as everyone shits on Illumination and they do have a lot of it coming. I legitimately like the first Despicable Me. I wouldn't say the sequels did a great deal for me, but the first one I legitimately like. I legitimately liked the first Shrek, although again a lot of DreamWorks
Oh,
stuff after
Shrek,
that.
Shrek! I completely forgot Shrek. Shrek is great. Yeah.
A lot of DreamWorks stuff after that doesn't do anything for me. But I like those two, and those are non-Pixar examples. But I'd like it if you just had. I'm actually kind of interested in seeing the new Scooby movie, and that's CGI, unfortunately. But I've always had a soft spot for Scooby Doo, and trailer looked cute enough. I might give it a shot.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Shrek is a really damn good movie. I mean, Shrek 2 isn't as good, just because they kind of went like Austin Powers with into overdrive with the gross out humor. But the first one is like fantastic.
I feel like the sequels, like I've seen all the Shrek sequels, and I didn't even dislike them. It wasn't that. It was more just I have a hard time remembering anything about them. Like
Well, the
Shrek, I
first
feel like there was a real point to Shrek. I feel like they really had something to say. And then I feel like the sequels, and there's not even inherently something wrong with it, but the sequels were just like, oh, you like Shrek? Well, here's some more Shrek. Like,
well,
there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it doesn't leave an impression. You know what I mean?
the whole point of the first Shrek movie was that it was a parody of fairy tales and fairy tale, in animated movies based on fairy tales. The character's not some dashing hero; it's a fat ogre living in a swamp. His sidekick is a donkey who won't shut the fuck up. It turns all the tropes of those movies on its head. That's why it's so funny and memorable. But with the sequels, I'll take your word for it. The only one I've seen is Shrek 2. It just got too like deep and self-serious with its lore, and kind of forgot the idea that it was intended to be a parody, a send-up,
Yeah,
which is kind of what the Austin Powers movies did.
I
The
really
first
have a
one's
hard
supposed to be
time even remembering anything about the sequels. That's just they just sort of were. And the Austin Powers
yeah,
movie falls into that too, where the sequels just sort of were.
yeah, because the first one was intended to be a parody of James Bond. You've got all the detail in there, like, and if you're a real James Bond aficionado, you'll recognize a lot of the small details. Like everyone like laughs at the scene of like this, Doctor Evil with a holding his pinky to his mouth. That was actually based off of what's his face, Ernst Stavro Blofeld in I think it was Thunderball. He had a ring on his finger that he would suck on whenever he was doing something evil. Like little details like that were what made that movie. And you've got like the plot, like the scene where the Austin Powers gets captured and Doctor Evil's gonna feed them to like sharks and that in an overcomplicated trap. And his son is like, "Look, dude, I've got a gun. I'll just get the gun and I'll shoot him in the head right now." And
I
he's all like,
love I love Seth Green in that movie. I love how
"Oh
not
yeah."
like his daddy is. I love how much he's like a disappointment to like when they're evacuating the base. He's like, "Hey, Dad, I gotta get my Sega." Like, I love that about that character. Uh, but yeah, there's not a lot from the sequels that stick with me. The only thing I remember about the third one is that Beyonce was in it, and I just remember that because like somebody asked Mike Myers in an interview what it was like to work with Beyonce, and the color drained from his face, and it looked like he was having a nom flashback.
Oh yeah.
I just nobody. That woman is horrible by all accounts. Just absolutely fucking horrible.
Yeah, I just blocked the third one out from my memory because it was just so bad. I mean, the second one is like okay. They start to go in with like the gross out humor with Fat Bastard and Austin Powers drinking the stool sample. But the third one just really just goes way into that, too deep into that for
Yeah,
me.
there's like a weird Harry Potter thing going on, like parody in the third one. It's like you're turning into one of those shitty like parody movies. What's those guys that did like disaster movie and all?
Scary movie, epic movie stuff
Yeah,
like that.
it's like you're turning into one of those.
When you're just throwing in references for the sake of references, and you're not considering how it fits into the greater scheme of things.
Yeah, and spending like huge amounts of time on it, where you're not throwing this reference in because you had a joke about it you wanted to share. It's obviously you just needed to fill time. You know what I mean? It's not like the writer was like, I got this really great Harry Potter joke. I know it doesn't fit, but it's hilarious. I'll just slide it in there real quick. No, it's like I'm gonna spend 10 minutes on a fucking Harry Potter scene because I gotta pad the runtime up to 90 minutes.
I will say one thing those movies do well is like Mike Myers is like a really versatile actor. He's playing, he's playing two separate roles in the first one. He's playing three separate ones in the third one, four in the, three in the second one, four in the third one, and like I wouldn't know it was him if I didn't look at the credits because he's just that damn good.
Yeah, he was pretty damn good in his day. Um, I can't even remember what the fuck we were talking about before we got on Austin Powers. But
We were talking about Sonic and
oh yeah, Sonic. Yeah, like I said, I might. I don't even know if I call myself a Sonic fan anymore because the more I look back, the more I'm like, well, I like all that. I like that cartoon with Princess Sally and the comic book based on it. I like the old Genesis era games, but that's like what 5% of this overall franchise that I actually enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, that and Sonic is like a magnet for autism.
I don't know why that is, but yeah, that is. I don't understand. I mean, yeah, I don't get it. I like the worst kind too. Like just you know, diaper furs and shit like that. I don't get where that comes from. No matter how fast Sonic runs, he can't run fast. He can't run away from his fandom.
I know Common Phillips used to talk about Sonic being an autism trigger. I forgot what he based it on, but I did do my own research, and Suggest the evidence I came up with was that like Sonic is like very simple and color coded. Like you got the fast move, but Sonic's blue. Like the bad guy, Robotnik is red, etc. It's very black and white, and it's very simple for like people who are autistic to grasp because they have difficulty grasping greater emotional nuance. And something else I found interesting. I mean, I think I sent this to you once. There was a study of some study related to autism, and it was called like Sonic Hedgehog protein linked to autism or something. Like I could not make this up.
Jeez. Yeah, but why wouldn't other video games? I mean, Mario, you could say the same thing about. Everybody's simple color coded. There's a simple plot. It's aside from like Mario RPGs, we never go further than you know Bowser's
Yeah,
doing bad shit. Go kick his ass.
yeah, but Mario doesn't go fast.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I just found the paper.
There's a
Yeah,
Flash TV show that's pretty popular. We like 20 years from now, we're gonna have a lot of fucking weird Flash fan fiction.
yeah. Anyway, I just found the paper I was referring to. This is from 2012. A relationship between Sonic Hedgehog protein, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and oxidative stress in autism spectrum disorders. I'm not sure why they call it Sonic Hedgehog protein. I mean, I'm not sure if that's like an in joke or like a coincidence.
I I don't get it. I don't understand what caused that. I used to joke they're gonna put me in a museum as the last non-autistic Sonic fan.
Well, we'll stuff you like they did this to Lennon. Put you in a fucking glass case.
Somebody in the chat says Mario has to rescue a girl, something autists can't relate to.
Good point.
Yeah, I guess Sonic's not rescued a princess. He's
He's
Robotnik
got to go
shoving
back.
squirrels and robots for some reason. So, um, some dude Sam sends $5 and says study linking Sonic and autism is brought to you by Focus on the Family. The group James Dobson found it. I that's a weird connection.
Now it's brought to you by the Chris Chan Foundation for narcissistic autism.
Jeez, I love the picture of back when the original Sonic trailer. I love how they like somebody photoshopped the guy in it to look like to be wearing Chris Chan's outfit and Sonic to look like Sonic Shoe. So I could just picture like a live action Chris Chan movie and the guy playing him is all buff and handsome. Just
Yeah, it'd probably go over like Simple Jack and Tropic Thunder.
oh,
You make my eyes rain.
so he says it's brought to you by Turning Point USA.
More like Burning Point USA, am I right?
Well, that's the other thing to talk about tonight. Charlie Kirk is continuously trying to stop this mutiny against him, this uprising. So Nick Fuentes triggered this, kind of started it, but it's Nick couldn't stop it now if he wanted to. Um, Basically, a bunch of guys show up at Turning Point USA rallies and or when Dan Crenshaw's there or when Matt Walsh is there and they just ask him a bunch of uncomfortable questions about stuff like race and but the big one they're getting them on is the Israel question. Hey, why are we Israel's pay picky? And they don't have an answer for that, and it's not going well for them. It is not
Yeah, I
going
mean,
well
one
for
of
them.
my favorite moments from like, there was the Florida event yesterday. By the way, my friend Simon Sasquatch was streaming that on his D Live channel. You can go. I think I posted a link to that in your Discord. But like someone brought up the Israel thing, and it's almost like Charlie Kirk had a malfunction. Remember the jokes we were making about Marco Rubio in 2016? like repeating the same shit over and over again. Charlie Kirk, like the Charlie Kirk bot 3000 had a malfunction. He kept repeating the same line again and again about Israel, about like why did George W. Bush promise to move the embassy to Jerusalem? And he said that over and over again as a proof that Trump isn't uniquely pro-Israel.
Well, yeah, that's the point, though. The point is our whole government is subservient to this foreign nation. And I'm sorry, but like, especially with young people, nobody. I fucking hated Bush. I thought Bush was a retarded war criminal. Like, the nicest thing I could say about Bush is Obama was worse. That's the. Fuck W. Like, oh, well, W did it. Okay, well, fan fucking tastic.
Well, the other more important thing is that they're hitting them on immigration questions. Like I know Nick Fuentes and Patrick Casey were trying to steer people away from asking Israel questions because it was kind of played out as a meme. Like it was good to trigger them in the beginning, but it's kind of a topic that people aren't that interested in. But the immigration stuff is way more important. And more importantly, they got Charlie Kirk to backpedal on the H-1B visas. He was literally saying at TPUSA events that we should, if we've got foreigners enrolled in American colleges, we should staple green cards to their diplomas, which is literally shit the left says. Like that's literally what Democrats say when they're advocating for DACA and amnesty. And yesterday he recanted that and admitted he was wrong. So kids, don't let anyone tell you that bullying doesn't work.
I mean, it is the more important question. I find the Israel one more interesting, at least from an entertainment standpoint, to watch them squirm with, because there is no answer to that. Like, look, you could give all sorts of high-minded ideals about how colorblind you are, and when you could ask them, well, what about demographics? And you could be like, well, I'm not that cynical, and I think all this other bullshit. You could sling a bunch of high-minded bullshit about that, and it's at least would be logically consistent. But there is no answer to the question of why are we Israel's pay piggy. So that one you really, really watch them squirm. And I mean, just for my selfish purposes, that's more entertaining. I love watching that. Like, yeah, and the Israel thing is extremely unfucking popular. It's not that big of an issue to a lot of people, but nobody under 30 feels like fucking sending, what is it, $2.3 billion a year to these people?
Yeah, I mean...
left, right, or center.
Yeah, it's pretty grotesque. The main reason I say that it's not the most useful issue to hit people on, because American support, at least, and particularly among the Republican base, for Israel is very, very strong. So it's worth pointing out to piss people off. But again, the immigration stuff is way, way more important. Yesterday at Florida, they were hitting Charlie Kirk hard on legal immigration and demographic change. They straight up asked him multiple times. He keeps talking about immigrants make America great, and someone points out the true observation that the majority of these immigrants vote Democratic. We've heard that line going back to the Bush years. Family values don't stop at the Rio Grande. This idea that Latinos are somehow natural conservatives, which is not true. That's been statistically proven. Latinos, as a demographic as a whole, are they're pro-abortion, they're pro-gay marriage, they're in favor of higher taxes, bigger government, they support gun control. They're not even particularly religious anymore. There was a study released by Pew a couple weeks back that showed the number of Hispanics who claim to be atheistic or don't have a religion has doubled in the past 20 years. It's something like they're not even majority Catholic anymore. The stereotype that they're all devout Catholics, but Catholics are in the minority among Hispanics. And in terms of there's some evangelical denominations that have been talking about how they've been converting a lot of Hispanics, to their. But the number of Hispanics who identify as Protestant only went up by 1%. The vast majority of them are assimilating into they're assimilating into American values, but it's the American values of the left, not the American values that someone like Charlie Kirk espouses.
The
Oh
only
yeah,
one of them that are the only group that's mostly conservative is Cubans, and even that's not by a huge margin, something like
oh
sixty
yeah,
forty.
he fucking brought that up as a counterpoint. It's like the majority of Cubans vote
Okay,
Republican.
but that's only like 60-40 as compared to the what, like 90-10 for Mexicans voting Democrat. And you know what though? Like nobody, like I'm not building a wall around Cuba. Okay, I don't
Yeah, it's
have
like
nearly as much of a problem with Cubans coming over
well, yeah,
here.
now there's multiple extenuating circumstances for that. Number one, majority of Cubans came to the U.S. because they were refugees from communism, so it was always going to be tilted towards the right. Number two, Cubans are not a particularly big group outside of Florida; like they're basically non-existent. And number three, young Cubans are majority Democratic, so they're assimilating into leftism as well. So it's a bad fucking example. They actually got Charlie Kirk to say the hilariously stupid line, "Demographics is not destiny." No, it fucking is. Oh yeah, I
What?
forgot to
No,
mention
he sits
with
there
the
and he's
whole
like, "Are you saying that a black guy could never be conservative? Are you saying a Hispanic guy could never be?" Like, yes, of course they can. Okay, but they're usually not. Okay, you could sit there and talk about the exception all you want, and that's fucking fantastic. But we're trying to talk about statistics here. We're trying to talk about raw numbers. You know.
We're talking about math, as a certain Asian nerd running for the presidency likes to tout. We're talking about math. Oh yeah, another great movement at the Florida event was when Charlie Kirk dropped the line about Judeo-Christian values. Multiple people in the audience shouted, "Stop saying that!" and he got a huge boo.
I love how unprepared he is for it because, like, you see a little bit of this on the left too. But when one of these guys on the right is getting hit from the right, they don't know what to do about it. Like they prepared themselves for all these talking points against those libtards. They're gonna own those libtards. And as soon as somebody's not hitting them from that angle, well, they just don't have any shields up in that direction. They just don't know. They're not prepared for it.
Well, a large part of it is because Charlie Kirk is unique in that, it's like, see, the thing is, you could say, like, like Ben Shapiro's a piece of shit, but Ben Shapiro, I think, sincerely believes in the bullshit that he's espousing. Kirk doesn't believe in anything. He's a whore. He's a mouthpiece. He was selected to head TPUSA and was selected to become this big figurehead precisely because he's a vacuous non-entity who will say whatever people put into his mouth, and he's got no conviction, no spine, which is how weeks of bullying by Groypers got him to backpedal on the H-1B issue.
Yeah. It was just today the ROC guys. I think Mersch. They were looking into some of the finances regarding Turning Point USA, and it's all very very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of it's shady. It's conservatism Inc. It's a bunch of grifters. Yeah, somebody like Ben Shapiro, he's a true patriot. I mean, not for this country, but he's a true patriot, and he believes what he says. But yeah, Charlie Kirk is a whore. Charlie Kirk, yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
that whole fucking group is just a bunch of like former leftists or whatever. Like, what's the black chick's name that he always his little pet black chick?
Candace Owens.
Yeah, like she was like a leftist like 8 minutes ago, and now she's beast. Like, okay,
She wasn't
that's
just a
fucking
leftist.
great.
She was a balls to the wall Bernie Sanders supporter. She was a doxer, ran that site, Social Autopsy. She's and then after the election, she suddenly is doing that Red Pill Black channel, and she's getting interviewed by Dave Rubin, and she's like, "I'm a conservative now," and she's pushing that Brexit shit that is going nowhere.
Oh god, fucking Dave
If you're
Rubin.
familiar with the YouTuber Tree of Logic, she did a good series of exposés on Candace Owens. In particular, the hilarious revelation that yeah, she's black, but like she has no like authentic Black American ancestry because her parents were immigrants, and she's actually descended from slave owners.
Of course.
She's as Oreo as it comes. Like she's only ever dated white guys, like so like you pick that person to be your outreach to the black community. Yeah, no wonder it went nowhere.
I like that one meme where what was it? It was Charlie Kirk. It was one of those fake Turning Point USA memes, but it was something like, if if my policies aren't popular with minorities, then why do all the minorities I pay agree with me?
Well, it's like that joke our friend William Rome used to say. What do you call a black guy at a libertarian conference? The keynote speaker.
What do you call a gay guy at a Turning Point USA conference? That's the other thing they're hitting them on. They're hitting them on from hitting them on the right from the for the gay issue. Like you. What's the line somebody said? How does butt sex promote traditional values?
How does anal sex win the culture war? Yeah, that was pretty awesome. The guy who like asked all those questions. The Brap did an interview with him last week. That was pretty good. Um, but from what I understand, I wasn't able to watch the stream today, but apparently the North Carolina event was kind of a disaster for the Groypers, just because like the people who got called on for questions were either like Wignat types who wanted to just revisit the Israel thing again, or they were just Reddit tier retards who just wanted to meme. Like people who just came up and said dumb shit and name dropped Nick Fuentes and weren't actually hitting Kirk on anything important.
Well, you're bound to have that eventually, but it's been going not very well for him, and I love that. I've
Yeah,
I've
the most
recently
entertaining thing about North
rediscovered.
Carolina.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the most entertaining thing about the North Carolina event was that was it Ben Shapiro that was there, or was Charlie Kirk? Like whoever was giving the speech, they went on a tear about Identity Europa, which is well, it's rebranded to American Identity Movement. It's headed by Patrick Casey, talking about how they're a neo-Nazi group that wants to overthrow the U.S. government. Which was and apparently they kept pronouncing it wrong. They were pronouncing Identity Yevropa. Um,
That's so stupid. That's
yeah,
so
I mean,
dumb.
I'm kind of breaking my own rule here, but I was talking to Squatty Potty Lover. By the way, if you're on Twitter, go follow her. She's cool. She was saying this publicly, like she can already see the pressure point that the conservative Inc. is going to hit the Groypers on. Patrick Casey and IE AIM. They're the guy's a former Wignat who was associated with Spencer and TRS and whatnot, and he's tried to rebrand and glom onto the Groyper movements. They're gonna hit him on. They're gonna try and discredit the Groypers by tying them to white supremacy through this angle. Um, and I feel the same way. The guy's got way too much baggage, and well, I won't say anything more, but like I can already see the fucking angle there.
Well, the one revisionist cis guy, I think it was Mersch. He had an interesting theory that rang true to me when they were digging up all the Spencer shit a week or so ago. He was like, I bet you they're gonna try and I bet you part of the reason they're digging this up, because Milo's a paid whore. He doesn't do anything by accident. Somebody's probably pulling his strings, and they were like, I bet you they want to tie Fuentes to Spencer and shut him down that way. And I mean, Fuentes was at the Unite the Right thing. So
Fuentes handled that in a very classy way. He just said straight up, like, I don't associate with Spencer. He's a leftist loser. But he also said, like, yeah, I don't like the idea of people's private communications, being leaked out like that. He took the high road, which is the right thing to do. Like Fuentes is inarguably like the biggest figure on the dissident right now. Dude is pulling in like 15,000, 20,000 people on his streams. He's getting like those numbers on DLive. Now, keep in mind, DLive is just like a tiny little tugboat platform. He's got 15,000 people watching his streams there. He had more people watching his stream ripping into Shapiro last week than Shapiro had watching his own stream.
Shapiro does technically an actual AM radio show now. They gave him Savage's slot in my district, even though he doesn't get close to Savage's ratings. I wonder if he takes callers. Be interesting to see some groypers try and actually call in to some radio shows. Um, and you're gonna hit the boomer audience that way with maybe some maybe dropping those red pills as they like to say. That might be interesting.
Yeah.
It's time consuming because you're going to be waiting hours on hold, but it's probably no more time consuming than driving possibly hours to one of these events. So
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't think it's working too well, just because, like, Spencer's been that guy is just, well, he's irrelevant, and I don't really want to talk about him anymore. But he's just been fuming about Fuentes and the Groypers for like months, because he's clearly jealous that Fuentes is doing everything that he wanted to do. Like, Spencer tried to set himself up as a serious political player, fell flat on his face, and now someone much younger and more talented and less retarded. Oh shit, not retarded. I meant to say. I didn't want to imply Nick Fuentes is retarded. Nah, he's a smart dude. Someone who's just better at Spencer in every way. He's doing everything that Spencer wanted to do. And what the Wignats are now doing, like in between trying to glom onto this, is like they're all like, "Well, the Groyper, Fuentes is trying to subvert the Groypers to attack Trump, to support Trump." Because they're still on that anti-Trump tip. They're all either Yang gangers or Tulsi stands, and and Fuentes made a very good key point that before the what happened when Kirk did the event with Don Trump Jr. earlier in the week. He said, like, we're not going after Trump. Trump is our guy. We want to get Trump to support the America First agenda. We don't want to fucking alienate Trump. We just want to humiliate Kirk and realize how bad he is for the Trump brand. And the Wignats are not happy about that because Trump betrayed us. He's a whore for Israel. He's big fat, Cheeto man. These people have no fucking plan. Like that's been thrown into clear focus over the past the past few weeks. They've got no fucking plan. Okay, yeah, there's plenty to criticize Trump for. He's not accomplished nearly as much as we hoped he would. But what alternative do we fucking have? Like, you want to take down Trump, elect a Democrat. Some of these retards actually think electing Elizabeth Warren will be good for whites in some undefined way. Where do you go from there? It's the underpants gnome theory of political revolution. Number one, take down Trump. Number two, question mark. Number three, Rahowa.
they're look, Trump's gonna win. There isn't, aside from Gabbard, there isn't one fucking candidate on those two or three stages they've got there that really could beat him. And Tulsi obviously has no shot at the nomination for several reasons. So I mean, Warren's not going to beat Trump. All right, Bernie couldn't beat Trump. And hell, Bernie's got way more of a shot than somebody like Warren. But no, it's going to be some establishment hack. It's going to be Warren or Biden or something along those lines. And it's going to be a bloodbath. Because, the left just... The left is acting like complete fucking retards. But also, the hardcore leftists aren't going to be turning out in droves for, some middle-of-the-road fucking hack like Warren. So, no, there's not going to be... There's not going to be another president in 2020. We have a Trump second term. That's all but a given at this point.
Well, politics is the art of the possible. Like you can't have like pie in the sky dreams. Well, I mean, you can have like goals. Obviously, you should have goals that you want to push the country towards, but you should like have a realistic means of obtaining those goals. And the simple reality is, like, if you're a nationalist, you want to see the wall built. You want to see an end to illegal immigration. You want to see America preserved, its founding stock preserved. Trump is the only game in town right now. There is no one else. There's nothing coming up in the Republicans. No one else. There's no one in the Democrats, despite what the people who are standing Tulsi say. Tulsi Gabbard say. Gabbard, aside from the foreign policy, she's on the left on every issue. There is no other option. And if you're hating on Trump, because and remember all these, I made this point a few days ago. Um, Play devil's advocate for a bit. I think a good part of the reason why Trump is kind of subtle up to people like Charlie Kirk, despite the fact that Kirk was, a never Trumper, is because like you can buy the loyalty of someone like Charlie Kirk. Just stuff a huge wad of cash in his G string, and he'll dance whatever tune you want him to dance. But the people, the Wignat types, half the alt right, abandoned Trump 3 months into his term because he lobbed some missiles at a tarmac in Syria. Like these are histrionic people who, as soon as they don't get what they want at the exact time they want, they throw their toys out of the cradle and I'm voting for Chelsea Gabbard. Trump's a Ziocock. These are not serious people. These are not people that can be relied upon. I'm sure Trump is aware of the alt right and the dissident right in general, and I'm sure either he or at the very minimum his advisors saw the way the alt right was behaving in response to this and made the conclusion that these people are not fucking trustworthy, and they've just proven their lack of trustworthiness again and again and again, with half of them now openly supporting Democrats. Uh, I'm not saying it's a good thing. Like Fuente said, an overarching goal of the Groyper Wars should be to get Trump to reorient away from, to push away the Charlie Kirks and get back to his original agenda of America First. I'm saying it has a logic to it. Okay, it has a logic to it. The people who are throwing histrionic fits because Trump isn't doing, because Trump didn't immediately fire up the cattle cars after getting inaugurated. These are people you can't trust. This is a constituency you can't rely upon, because the second reality gets in the way of their delusions, they just pitch a fit, and they go off and they support someone else.
Pretty much. I mean, I've shit on Trump all the time here, but that's mostly in a black pilled way. I haven't been like, oh, go support this other, because there's no better option. You know, like yeah, with the red flag shit, that was heinous, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? I can't with you anymore. But
Well, I'm pissed at Trump over the threatened ban on flavored vape juices. Like, there's no fucking reason for that.
it's like
Especially
stop being
now
a
that they're
fucking
fucking
boomer
confirmed.
sometimes. But what are you gonna do? Like, yeah, I'm probably still gonna vote. What am I gonna like? I've now honestly really never not voted. Certainly for a presidential election. It takes like 10 minutes out of your fucking day. It's not a big deal. But yeah, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna not. Oh, I'm gonna vote for fucking Biden. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, he's gonna get a second term. The Wignettes screaming about it. Part of that is a lot of those guys wouldn't know what to do if they won. It's the dog, the Joker line. I'm a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do if I caught it. They like they like being losers, as it were. They like, oh, I'm the persecuted one, and there's too much of that on the right in general. There's a cottage industry of being quote unquote persecuted on the right. It's led to a bunch of Charlie Kirks out there.
Yeah,
Making mad ducats.
these people don't want to win. They want to be beautiful losers. They want to have that dopamine hit of being persecuted because it's part of their identity. And also, like, a lot of it is just like hipsterism. These people just don't like the idea of normies intruding onto their ideological safe space. They're like, I made this comparison before, but it's the truth. They're like the goth kids from South Park. Like, piff, you don't want to be like you conformists. That's what these people are. They treat politics like it's a status marker. And if their ideas ever take root, which to a certain extent they have, the political dialogue has moved rightward in many respects in the past 4 or 5 years. They don't like that because it threatens their identity as being like these persecuted loners who are against the system. And that's endemic to fringe politics in general. That's why say the Libertarian Party is utterly dysfunctional, why the Green Party is utterly dysfunctional, why none of these groups can form a effective political bloc because they're full of people who just like being marginalized.
Oh yeah, I remember like something like 18 went to a libertarian um, party meetup in Pennsylvania or something. It was a fucking joke. Like for one thing, a bunch of them were praising the Amish, which, as you know, is my personal fucking pet peeve. Because they buck the system, man. Like great, they also don't wash their balls. What do you like? What? And again, it was just you had a few of the guys there that wanted to talk about nothing but weed and buttholes. Then you had the boomer that wanted to talk about nothing but fucking tax law. Oh, it was a fucking shit show, man. But then
Yeah,
I've
I mean,
never
but
totally fit into any group, really.
yeah, but it's like I'm hopeful for the future now with all this going on. I'm glad to see someone like Nick Fuentes getting his due. I'm glad to see like the young kids out there who are pushing back against these people. It's like I said, it feels like 2015, 2016 all over again, where we were just shitting on the conservatives day in day out, just humiliating them, and showing like this is the other important thing you have to take away from the Groyper Wars. People like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro have no organic support whatsoever. They're all media constructions. They're all constructions of the Republican Party. They're all constructions of the fake news media. They're not pushed because they're popular. They're pushed because they serve the agenda of whoever's cutting the checks. The fact that a guy like Fuentes, who as recently as a couple of years ago was relatively obscure, is now beating people like Shapiro and Kirk in terms of like viewership. He's a household name now. The fact that a few Groypers can go to these events and just drown Kirk out in a sea of booze and hit him with questions that he can't answer satisfactorily. It just shows that this seeming colossus of conservatism Inc. All these people, despite all the media exposure and money they get, they have nothing backing them. They're a paper tiger, and they're being set on fire, metaphorically, in Minecraft. That's that's uh that's a metaphor.
Well, the two biggest guys, you look at like Fox News, the two biggest guys rating wise are Hannity and Tucker. And the rest of these shows can barely get anyone. They can't get anyone under 50 to watch anything else on Fox News except Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna hold to this prediction. I'm sure it's gonna come true. Tucker Carlson's gonna get fired before the election, and he's gonna be replaced with Ben Shapiro. I just know it.
I wouldn't.
I just
I would not be surprised with that because I was legitimately. I was legitimately taken aback when I realized the local talk radio station here bumped Savage out of the 3 to 6 slot where he's actually live and put fucking Ben Shapiro in his place. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'd be surprised if Ben Shapiro can get a tenth of the audience Savage can. Like, he'll get something just being in that slot, and I don't, that's just my market and all, but yeah, he'll get something just being in that slot because it's the drive home slot, but nobody fucking likes him.
Yeah, you know what they're doing there. Whoever's syndicating him, I don't know. I think it's Citadel or Cumulus or whatever they're called now, or Westwood One. They're paying radio stations to put Shapiro on the air because that's the only way he can get on the air. That's a common practice in the radio industry. If you've got like some syndicate show you want to push, you just cut the radio stations a big fat check. That's what happened when you remember when Dennis Miller had a radio show. I'm not a fan of Dennis Miller. I can see why people like him though. He was a fucking horrible radio host. That was just objective. He had no flow. He had no understanding of the medium. He was a bore to listen to. But like when his show launched on Westwood One back in 2007, he was all of a sudden able to get all these clears in New York, in Chicago, in LA. He was on every major radio station. Actually, they bumped Savage in a lot of places to make room for Dennis Miller. And that wasn't because Dennis Miller was such a hot property. It's because the syndicator paid those radio stations to put Dennis Miller on the air.
Yeah, there's definitely a conservative ink kind of, I don't know, what do you call it, syndicate of these fuckers. You know, somebody like Savage is routinely the number two or number three talk radio host in the country ratings wise. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I listened to
and
Savage a lot when I was a kid. You know, I haven't listened to him in years. I'm amazed at that guy's stamina. He's got to be like pushing 80 at this point. He's still on the
he's
air.
well into his 70s. Yeah,
Yeah, and whenever I hear a clip or whatever, like he sounds like he's on the ball. You know, he doesn't sound like G. Gordon Liddy was on the air like into his 80s, but like when like 10 years ago, I remember hearing G. Gordon Liddy on a small market station near where I grew up, and the dude sounded like death, like warmed over death. Savage sounds like he still got it, man. You know, I admire that guy's fucking stamina. There's no reason to bump him unless there's a financial incentive to do so.
no, and his show was legitimately interesting. Like Savage didn't just talk about politics; he talked about slice of life stuff. He had a background in all this medical science shit he'd go on about. I mean, I very often did not agree with Savage, but I usually enjoyed listening to his show. I mean, like somebody like Glenn Beck, I never fucking liked. I would occasionally hate listening to fucking Glenn Beck, but that was it because I really fucking hated that guy. Rush was obviously hit or miss. Um, Hannity, I didn't like Hannity in the Bush years because he was neocon as fuck. But I don't know whether it's a legitimate, Damascus moment with him or he's just going where the audience is. But Hannity is not that anymore.
Hannity's a Republican loyalist. He does whatever like the people in charge tell him to do, which is why he became a hardcore Trump America First guy. So he's got that going for him. He's a very loyal dude. I don't like him at all. I find his radio show is horrible because he's just so repetitious.
Oh
But
my god.
actually, I remember going to a town hall he hosted with Trump back in 2016 in Milwaukee. He's a good showman. Showsman. Not my cup of tea, but I can see why people like him. But yeah, like these people at least get ratings. Rush still has an audience. Glenn Beck, as much of an intolerable shithead he has an organic audience. I don't know how much
Not
of that
so
he has.
much now, but he did.
Yeah, yeah, he did. Savage has an audience. These other guys, had an audience. Ben Shapiro's got no audience. He's being pushed. He's being pushed by people who want to see him to become the face of conservatism. He's a young hip conservative. He's just edgy enough to like shock people with oh, snowflakes. Facts don't care about your feelings. I'm Ben Shapiro,
Well,
but
he's been being pushed since he was 19. Like in 2003, at the age of 19, this guy had a WorldNet Daily column. Back when that meant something. I know who gives a shit about that now. But in 2003, that was something. That was fucking important. And this 19-year-old gets a fucking WorldNet Daily column. So even though he's not enlisted himself, he can tell us all how great this upcoming Iraq war is gonna fucking be. And and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, what? The dude's fucking like a year younger than me, and I'm sitting there like, how the fuck are you gonna column at WorldNet Daily before you even done? Like, he's not even out of law school at that point. Now, I come to find out years later it's because his daddy got it for him. But and then just a couple years ago during the big SJW shit, he finally actually made a name for himself a little bit organically by being like, look, I own this SJW. Like, yeah, you and everyone else. Like, you and fucking Carl Benjamin. Congratulations.
I mean, he's not totally untalented. He is a legitimately good debater, and he has a good grasp of like the issues. The issue is that like he's just not appealing. Oh, he's a very like. I mean, even if like I agreed with Shapiro on the issues, I would still find him intolerable.
He keeps. He's one of these guys, and Kirk's the same way, where he keeps pushing. Notice me senpai with AOC. He keeps pushing that he wants to debate AOC. I got news for you. If first of all, it's not common for a sitting congresswoman to fucking make Ben Shapiro feel like a big boy. I don't know why he thinks that's normal. But like if she did that, and yeah, she's a fucking idiot in a lot of ways, but she's actually kind of charming, and it would not go well for him. He would come across as the biggest fucking creep, as the big like he would not, and it doesn't matter. The merits of the thing doesn't matter. Okay, like because anybody who understands the merits of the argument is not going to be having their fucking mind changed by either one of those clowns. But no, he would look really really bad in that. She would make him look like the creepy fucking weirdo that, let's be real, he is. You know, every bit of his audio sounds like it should be coming out of a locker. And it wouldn't go well for him. It really wouldn't. But he's convinced it would, so he's going to tilt after that windmill to the end of fucking time. But he's not going to debate a Nick Fuentes. No, oh, no. He's, you know, that's no good.
Well, yeah, I mean, like part of
he'll call someone else a coward for not debating him while he runs away from a debate.
Well, I mean, I want to qualify his debate prowess. Like a good part of the reason why he looks good in debates because he always selects people like to debate that he can look good against, you know, or at least almost always.
Yeah, I could be a heavyweight. I could be the world champion boxer if I get to pick my opponents each fucking match. You know, just a string of beating up first graders. Yeah, I could take the title belt. I mean,
Bechtloff is the world champion in bashing retarded kids in the face.
Yeah, I identify as a first. I identify as a 12-year-old, and I became, you know, and I led my team to Little League champion. Like, of course, you know, yeah. If you're arguing with some blue hair retard on a college campus, you're probably going to be able to make a fool of him.
Yeah, like he won't pick a debate challenge where like he'd actually have a challenge. But this is a good thing. Like, you know, they're being forced to acknowledge the massive discontent among the right, among young people, especially the young people that they claim that they're reaching out to.
Nobody under 40, nobody under 30 even, on any quadrant of the political compass likes Ben Shapiro. Like that's something where we can all agree on all four quadrants of the political compass. If you're under 30 at least, yeah, Ben Shapiro sucks. In fact, I want to expand the political compass into a third dimension with another axis that's Zoomer Boomer. I feel like that needs to happen. We need a 3D political compass with a Zoomer Boomer axis. Like all four quadrants on the Zoomer side are say fuck Israel.
And then you have to bring in the other factor here, and it's like these people pick the worst fucking topics to emphasize on, and stuff. It's like Charlie Kirk, the TPSA, they're all about the free market. We're all about capitalism. We're all about the enterprise and shit. What kind of a person with a functioning gag reflex is going to get all hot and bothered over free markets? That wasn't even the case like 10, 15 years ago. Okay, I mean, I always consider myself pretty right leaning. I started as a neocon and as a teenager and moved to the right as I grew up. But I could never look at someone like Charlie Kirk, even when I was in that stage, and have any respect for myself. I made this point recently. A good part of the reason why a lot of talented people end up, in terms of artists and whatnot, end up drifting to the left or just avoiding the right is because the right is so fucking tone deaf. With the free market shit, nobody cares about free markets. Nobody respects free markets. You're not going to sell the virtues of free market capitalism to a generation that's been financially fucked since before they were old enough to vote.
Well, these are people who have allowed the very idea of the free market to be, well, banks get to do what they want and we can all suck a dick. And that's not going to be popular. Okay, I have a memory longer than a couple of minutes here, Charlie, and I don't remember all you fuckers going on about the free market when it came time to bail out the banks. So I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore like, oh, we need student loan forgiveness. Oh, but think of the poor lenders. I don't want to fucking hear it anymore about that shit. I bet you. I don't know what Charlie Kirk was doing in 2008, but I bet you he wasn't voting for fucking Ron Paul. So I don't want to hear it about the free fucking market from him.
The free market doesn't fucking exist. Like the free market, everyone knows it's a fucking joke. Everyone knows this whole entrepreneurship thing is like got zero fucking organic appeal because it doesn't address anyone's real fucking issues. It's like we've got an entire generation saddled down with student loan debt, or like in general has no prospects of a stable career. We're looking at living in the gig economy our entire fucking lives. We're looking at running pods and eating Soylent, and not being able to own a car because that's bad for the environment. That's you cannot sell the virtues of the free market to people like that. They're not interested. Like even when I was a younger like neocon type, I found these people to be just viscerally repulsive. Like my literary influences when I was a kid, the people I looked up to and kind of modeled my early writing and thought on were like outside of the dissident right. When I found stuff like that around 2007, it was all leftists. People like Hunter Thompson, Charles Bukowski, Mark Ames, John Dolan, because those people, despite my political disagreements with them, called it like it is. They were willing to call a spade a spade. Charlie Kirk is the kind of guy who could deep throat a turd without gagging.
Oh yeah, nobody's gonna sit here and want to sing a sad song for the banksters. It's not gonna fucking happen. And I actually heard Ben Shapiro say, I swear I heard this, and I can't find the clip of it, so maybe I fucking Bernstein Bears did. But I swear I heard him say something along the lines of, the anti-usury sentiment was anti-Semitic. And I'm like, you better hope no one believes you in that. Like, do you think making that point is going to make usury popular? Or do you think it's going to make anti-Semitism popular? Like, what are you doing there, buddy?
Well, I mean, like, it's like they say, like, saying globalist. That's that's a dog whistle for anti-Semitism. It's like no one made that connection except for you. Like no one was saying. I mean, obviously there are some fringe examples. When people say globalists, they mean globalists. They don't mean it as a catchword for Jews.
Yeah, you're the one saying it's synonymous. Like.
It's like if you remember when the triple parentheses, the echoes became popular, got blasted in the fake news media, and then like all the Jews in media and politics and whatnot put them around their name, inadvertently revealing just how many Jews there are in positions of power. There was actually an attempt to do a similar. This was back around 2016. There was an attempt to do something similar with the 109 meme. Just saying 109 all the time to get the media to inadvertently reveal how many countries the Jews have been kicked out of.
Well, the media is insanely stupid in that regard, so I could see it working.
Well, the problem there is like due to Twitter, the way Twitter works, you couldn't hashtag the number 109 like you could with other stuff.
Yeah, they don't let you hashtag a number
in general.
The 109 meme. That's fantastic. But yeah, I've made the point several times that, I mean, you have issues with, obviously, wages stagnating, that, no one in Conservatism Inc. wants to talk about. You got issues with the student loan crisis, and I said that I think the fix to the student loan crisis is to make student loans absolvable through bankruptcy, retroactive a good 15 years at least, if not longer. And I think that's how you solve this crisis. And I don't like the idea of student loan forgiveness because I think that lets everyone off the hook. Like, look, you shouldn't. I realize you were a dumb kid, but you shouldn't have taken this loan out. You shouldn't have done it. But also, the bank shouldn't have given you that loan. So I'm not interested in letting either one of you completely off the hook. Bankruptcy has its consequences. It gets you out of the inescapable debt, but it has its consequences. And the banks need to eat it on the fucking losses. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's actually when you think about it, like easy bankruptcy is one of like the great things about the United States. Like the United States never had debtors prisons. We never got people. We always like bankruptcy is actually written into the U.S. Constitution. That's how important it is to the economic fabric of this country. The idea that if people get too far into debt due to poor decision making or unfortunate things that happen to them, they shouldn't be condemned to it. They shouldn't be thrown into prison for it. They should be able to, obviously lose some privileges such as access to credit, but they should be able to wipe that clean and start anew. Like that's important. You can't have an economy in
I mean,
which
like,
people spiral into get trapped into spirals of debt because well, look at what we have now. It's complete impoverishment of everyone under the age of 50 fucking five.
like the AOC Bernie anti-usury bill where they wanted to cap commercial interest rates. Again, that's not exactly how I would handle it. I think the solution is to loosen bankruptcy laws. That said, though, I'm not going to sit here and it's someone's right to charge 55 fucking percent interest is not a hill I'm willing to die on. You know, part of me wants to say, hey, if someone enters that contract and someone's willing to do whatever, it's between them. But at the same time, I wouldn't have a problem with insanely high interest rates if you loosened up bankruptcy laws. If there was a way fucking out of it. Um,
Well, you know what
because
would
even
happen?
just generally the bankruptcy laws have gotten tighter and tighter and more restrictive, and I no loosen them up. And
Well, you
but
know, like
they won't be giving all these loans out. Good. You're not supposed to loan money to somebody that can't pay you back.
yeah, I was gonna say like if you loosen up bankruptcy laws or if you put a cap on interest rates, what's gonna happen is like just the banks will just stop lending money out to those people, which is good. I'm like, I mean, perfect example of what happens when you get a debt spiral to giving money to people who can't pay it back. The housing crisis. What did that do? Oh yeah, it tanked the world economy.
And you know what drives me nuts about this? You get the Republicans and they want to be like, this was a government caused problems because the government, made these banks give all these loans out to people, all these housing loans. No, 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 no. Let's be real here. The banks did not lobby against those rules. And in fact, many of them lobbied for them because the banks knew, and they turned out to be right, that when the time finally came that this shit collapsed, they weren't going to be holding the bag. So you can blame the government partially for that, sure, but you got to blame the banks partially for that too. And
Yeah,
yeah,
the
they
banks.
should have all just fucking failed. They should have all just been allowed to fucking fail. Or if there was a bank bailout, it should have been a bank bailout that absolved people out of their fucking mortgages.
Yeah, I mean, and consider that the United States is really the only like country that has this kind of system in place. Like in European countries, or hell, even in a place like Canada, credit is far more difficult to get a hold of because the laws are a lot tighter, and as a result, people don't get caught in these debt spirals. Like a few months ago, I got a bank account here in Georgia, in part because it would make certain transactions here easier. And I looked on the website of the bank, and they also have like credit card offerings, and the requirements for getting those are really damn strict. Well, for starters, you have to be a citizen, which makes sense. They don't want the bank doesn't want like foreigners coming in, getting a credit card, running up debt, and then fleeing the country to where they can't get it paid back. So that's one thing. But the credit, the max amount of credit you can get is very low. I think like the high end credit card is like $2,000 max. It may not even be that. I mean, something like 1,500. You have to go through serious credit checks. You have to prove that you have tangible property. You have to have a certain amount of money in your bank accounts. You have to have a record of having paid your bills on time for a certain 4 years because the laws here are just that strict. And as a result, uh, it's very difficult for the banks are only going to hand out lines of credit to people they know are going to be able to pay that back. They're only going to Joe Schmo can't just give an it easy it is to get like a credit card in the U.S. I remember when I signed up for like one credit card I have, they didn't even ask for like income verification. They asked me what like my estimated yearly income was, and you could just put in any number you wanted.
You know, there's an
Uh,
old Simpsons episode where Bart runs up a credit card that was sent out to Santa's little helper, and that's not a fucking entire. I'm not making this up. When I was a kid, I had a dog named Odie, like the Garfield dog, but it was actually short for Odysseus. But we all called him Odie, like the Garfield dog. Um, but I'm not making this up. When we had a credit card offer come to our house for Otis Bechtloff. And like at first I didn't even, my dad's like, who the fuck is Otis? And then he's like, do they mean Odie? Did did these motherfuckers send my son's dog a credit card offer? Like
Fuck.
I remember my dad actually um the through the piece of mail in like my dad in the dog's like toy bin or something, like, well, there's your mail. I'm not allowed to open it. It's not addressed to me. Uh, but like I think we did open it and it just said Otis Bechtloff in it. And like that was a joke in The Simpsons, but that's a thing I fucking saw in real life. Cause I can't process who the fuck else Otis is. I don't know of anyone in my fucking family tree named Otis.
Is that even like a real fucking name?
Otis is a real name, like Odus or something. Like, I mean, Odie isn't. Odysseus, I guess, is if you fucking Greek. I don't know if I can know, but like, yeah, Otis Bechtloff receiving a credit card offer, and there was a fucking card in it. I don't remember the details because I was like 12 or something when this fucking happened. But it was one of those where there's a fucking card in it. You know what I mean? Like, you're pre-approved. Now, this was the roaring 90s when, you know... I know I got credit card offers in my teen years before.
Oh, I got a shit ton of them too when I was a teenager.
Like, but, you know... I got credit card offers long before I was legally allowed to have a credit card. I don't know if a dog's legally allowed to have a card. I don't know how the fuck that works. But you know, it's just these computers just digging up every name and address it can and sending just fucking credit card info. And somehow it fucking found the name Odie Bechtloff or something, I guess, and corrected it to Otis. I don't know how the fuck it happened. But yeah, my dog got a credit card offer in the 90s. Yeah. That's where these banks were.
Gonna put some chew toys and
yeah, just run up
on layaway.
Who the hell ran up $100,000 at PetSmart? But that's where they were. And you know, that's a little bit out of fucking hand. And you heard reports of babies getting credit card info offers throughout the 90s. Like that, the reason the Simpsons made that episode is because it was a joke. Yeah, the Simpsons, in the Simpsons, they got Santos L. Halper got a credit card offer. But yeah, Otis Bechtloff getting a fucking credit card offer. I wish we'd have saved that, to be honest. Because it
Frame it, put it on the wall.
Well, you know, it's a lot of time you get the automated things and all. I knew somebody whose ex-wife had died, right? I'm not going to name names because I don't want to put people's personal info out there. But when that woman died, the man received an automatically generated letter saying that you will no longer be paying spousal support because because so and so is now deceased. But it gets better. The person who died received an automatically generated letter saying you are no longer eligible for spousal support because you are deceased. That was the state of Pennsylvania. Just automatically generated letters just going out, just in case you weren't aware that you're dead. Like,
did they think that? I guess
is that like, imagine being a ghost and that's how you find out you died? Like, you're just in your apartment, you don't realize you're dead yet. Remember, like in Beetlejuice, how the two ghosts didn't realize they were dead yet at first?
I'm guessing they didn't send it to heaven because they thought it would be undeliverable.
They got a letter. You got a letter informing you that you are now deceased.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's not a system that's working properly. Yeah, a credit system that offers Otis Bechtloff a credit card not working properly. You're pre-approved. How about that? But again, these banks knew they were never going to be on the hook for anything. You know, it was a fucking free-for-all. You know, the one story I've mentioned numerous times on here, during the housing crisis, so, you know, they used to sell these mortgages, like your mortgage would change hands a dozen fucking times. This guy took this one bank to court and demanded that they prove ownership of the mortgage, and they couldn't do it. They weren't even keeping track of paperwork enough. They couldn't even prove before a judge that they had any right to this mortgage. And so the judge just basically gave the deed to the guy because he was the only one with any claim to the property. But they weren't even keeping track of their fucking paperwork.
Oh yeah.
A couple people in the chat are talking about, I guess, Razor Fist was bitching about Fuente's tactics, saying it'll cause a purity spiral. Razor Fist supports Jack Posobiec. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know about Razor Fist. I mean, I love his videos still, but I don't know. There's
Razor Fist he was very against internet blood sports, and he's just not a big fan of like the show building thing. You know, I mean, I don't really have any comments. I mean, I like Razor Fist, you know, and I'm friends with Nick Fuentes. Not close friends or anything, but you know, we talk to each other.
I mean, I haven't had Razor Fist on in forever, but I've had him on the show a few times. I like the guy. I'm a fan of the guy. I consider myself friendly to the guy, but I don't know, man. I think he's cozying up to some of these grifters a little bit too much. You know,
I don't know. I mean, my perspective, I think he just wants to avoid drama. You know,
I don't know.
I just on his stream, so
and don't Razor Fist. Don't be throwing your lot in with Steven Crowder. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's not a good scene, man. It's not a good scene. You know, and I'm speaking as someone who deeply regrets someone I used to associate with. So, you know, don't do it, man. I don't know if he still fucking listens to this show, but I'm just saying, it's louder with Crowder is not the scene you want to be in. And say what you will about the blood sports guys, but I mean, Fuentes is one of the guys that did not self-destruct. One of the few. I don't know why it was so hard for all those guys to hold on to that, like when they got successful. Like, I mean, once you got to a certain point where, you know, the guests came to you and stuff like that, I mean, literally all you had to do was host a stream of two idiots screaming at each other, collect the money, and call it a night. But somehow nobody could handle that. And I know there was deplatforming that was out of their hands and stuff like that, but most of these guys, their downfall was their fault. You know, you look at somebody like Tonka, somebody like Worski even, you know, it was their fault.
yeah, I mean, well, you know, I mean, it served its purpose, you know, like that whole culture. But I'm kind of glad it's gone now, just because it ran its course.
I miss it, though. It was just so much fucking fun. Just so unpredictable. You know, when you got just two idiots screaming at each other, when you got Tariq Nasheed going on about his dick Like, just it's so ridiculous. Oh, but we're very rapidly reaching a point where you're not gonna have any fun on the internet anymore. So that's coming to an end. Well, anyways, folks, if you enjoy the content I put out, consider supporting the show because I'm gonna wrap this up for tonight. We got the PayPal, Patreon, and Amazon wish list are all ways you can support the program. I'm thinking Friday night we're gonna do a gaming stream, a little bit of Atari 2600 for that first gaming stream. And I'm planning on the second one being a bunch of Ninja Turtle games. And Saturday, I am probably back doing the show. It looks like the mandatory overtime at the Box Factory has calmed down. I'm probably going to be doing a show. If I do a show Saturday, going to have Pastor Tom on, and we're going to be dissecting the James McDonald story a lot more. Because I'll need a cooler head on the show when I do that. Otherwise, it'll just be me screaming about, all the things I wish to do to James McDonald in Minecraft. Build him a very nice house, of course, is what I'm saying. But yeah, that's about all we got. Oh, go ahead.
Creepers out.
Yep. That's about all we got for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for listening.